So, welcome to our career workshop from the Student Money Management Center at the University of North Texas and the Career Center. So, my name is Erin, and I have Sebastian here from the Career Center, and we're going to break down how to land your first job out of college, or maybe not your first one, but how to land a job, and then how to decide on an offer. So, let's get started.
So first, we're going to look at what is a resume and what is a cover letter. So a resume is a personalized document about one page that showcases your key background and experience, skills, and accomplishments. You'll see these commonly when you're wanting to obtain a new position, a new employment, but you can also use this for organizations and internships as well. A cover letter. So you'll submit this not all the time, but you can be asked to submit these with your resume. So it gives more in-depth information of your skills and experience and what qualifies you for that specific position. And it'll also help to set you apart from the other applicants as well. So there are a couple different types of resumes. The first one we're going to look at is a functional resume, which focuses on your skills and experience. You will typically see this type of resume in people who are trying to change careers or have gaps in their employment history or whose work history don't really correlate. So mainly for people around our age who are younger and have not yet gotten to their careers.
So, that was a functional resume, and this is a chronological.
So next we're going to look at a chronological resume. So this is a list of your work history in order of date. So it will start with your most recent employment and work your way back. So this one will also include an objective, which you will see in most resumes. So it's just a brief about 3 to 5 sentence paragraph that states why you want to obtain this position or the type of position you're trying to obtain, and then it'll also list your work experience and awards that you may have obtained throughout your work history. So next we'll look at a cover letter. So cover letters are usually about 3 paragraphs, 3 short paragraphs. And again, it just goes more in depth about you and the position you're also trying to obtain, the experiences. So the intro can start with, this is what I want to do, and then why you're trying to get the position. The second paragraph is marketing yourself to the employer. So what you'll be able to do for that company and why you are the best candidate for the position. And the third paragraph will close is a closing. And so stating why you would like an interview and what you are willing to do to obtain the position. So next we're going to move on to interview prep. So just to help you do good in your interviews. So these are a couple common questions to expect during the interview. So tell me a little about yourself. What are some of your greatest strengths? Tell me what skills you have that can help you in this job. What is the most difficult situation you have faced? Why are you leaving your current job? And why should we hire you? So next we're going to go on to an elevator pitch. This is a short 60-second spill about what makes you best for the position and again with your experience and background. So you want to include similar ideas and morals for the company, solutions to problems that they may have, and mention you again, like I said, you want to mention your previous experience, the position you might currently be at if you do have a position, and your future goals. You want to look presentable, so either business casual or business professional, and stand tall. You want to speak with a good tone, and always make sure you make eye contact and that you are confident. So we have an example here, so I'll fill in the blanks. Hello, my name is Sebastian, and I am completing a business degree in integrated studies at the University of North Texas with a minor in business analytics. I am interested in a career in a corporate position uh, in the in the automotive in the corporate position in the automotive industry. Uh, I have been involved during college in several organizations and developed skills in leadership and um, problem solving. I've also had an internship position as I would probably say like assistant with a certain company. I have not had that yet. And then you would lastly open up for conversation. And so you would ask them to tell you more about the company. So, what you should ask during the interview process is, can you tell me more about the day to day responsibilities of the job? What are the biggest challenges facing the company or department right now? What do you enjoy most about working for this company? Can you describe the company culture and what are the next steps in the interview process? You always want to make sure you at least have 2 to 3 questions to ask because that also helps you to stand out from the other interviewers. So, lastly, we will look at how you should dress for an interview. So, you always want to make sure that you are business professional. You don't want to look like you already attained the position and you're coming a little more casual. So always do your homework and overdressing. There is really no such thing as overdressing when it comes to business professional. You want to keep it simple. So more for men, you want to wear more of like a gray, black, or navy blue suit with a button down and a basic tie. You can also wear khakis as well with a blazer. For women, you want to wear either pantsuits, again, basic black, gray, or navy with a nice blouse, or if you choose to wear a skirt and make sure it is at least knee length, and then make sure you have good hygiene, that you look presentable, and you always want to practice before going into the interview. So this is what not to wear. Shorts, ripped jeans, t-shirts, sandals, open-toed shoes, sunglasses, things like that. This is definitely considered casual. So you definitely, if it's something you would wear on a day-to-day basis, I would recommend not wearing.
So now that we've given you all the tips on how to find a job and how to land it, and now you have an offer. So what to do next? So you want to create a priority decision list. So this is really going to kind of help you evaluate whether this position is right for you, whether you're going to be able to make enough money from it. Are you going to be able to have a sustainable living wage? Because it's not always only about how much money you're getting. There's a lot of other factors that go into it, and you actually have to calculate all your expenses to find out what your take home pay is. So some of the key questions are going to be, what are you willing to compromise? What can you let go and are you willing to negotiate? So for example, what are you willing to compromise? Maybe they're not paying you what you're expecting. Say you're looking for something that paid 55,000, but they're giving you 50,000. Can you compromise? And what can you compromise on? So that's kind of where you take a look into, what are the benefits that you're getting? Is your workplace close to where you're living so you're able to save some money on gas, for example? So there's a lot of small but really key areas that you can look at and you can kind of figure out what you're willing to compromise on. Really, it's a matter of making a list of what are the absolutely essential characteristics that are make or break for you when it comes to taking a job offer. And then what can you let go? So maybe you're working somewhere right now that has a really great on campus gym, for example. Your building has a gym in it. But you get a better job offer and maybe you get more money, but some of the benefits aren't going to be included. So, for example, there's that gym. Can you let it go? So it really, kind of comes down to your personal preference. You might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, that's fine. I can just get my other one. But for somebody else, they might not have any gyms really close to them. Maybe they have a really set routine and it actually works out really well. So, it's really little things. It's not always about just the money you're taking home. And then finally, are you willing to negotiate? So if you're, don't be afraid to counter offer. If you know what you're worth, then, you should definitely give it a chance. You should definitely try and negotiate. Now, of course, you don't want to be too crazy with it. If your offer is, say 45, you don't want to counteract and be like, okay, well, I want 80. You have to be reasonable. Do some research, do some market research, do your industry research. Look at what people with the same level of experience as you in the same industry are getting paid. Use that as a gauge. And of course, be reasonable. And then, of course, do not make a decision until you have a written offer. And that written offer needs to have all of these details kind of outlined and out there in the clear. You don't want to sign a written offer and then try to negotiate after. You want to make sure your written offer has all the things that you're looking for. So, just to kind of break it down a little bit further. So, you have a first review and you have a second review. So, before we get too into it, I wanted to kind of establish the difference between a competitive wage and a livable wage. So, a competitive wage is determined by external factors such as, your overall industry, your position, um, kind of just, this is the type of stuff you can kind of go online and you can look for. So, it's external. These are like the outside factors that are affecting it. And of course, some positions will have very competitive wages, some might not. It really kind of depends on what you're doing and what industry you're in, and also kind of your experience level. Now, the competitive wage is just going to be like your basic reference point. This is before you do any calculation. So, this is what they're going to tell you in the job offer. Whenever you speak with hiring managers, for example, usually what they're referring to is going to be your gross salary, not your net salary. But your net salary is actually the number that you need to look at to figure out if this offer is right for you or not. So that's when the second review takes place, and you have to determine your livable wage individually because these things are going to be different based on what you have going on. So, of course, the first thing you want to take out is going to be your taxes. So, everybody does get taxed. So, that's the first thing you want to do. Figure out how much of your paycheck will be, how much of your paycheck will contribute to taxes, and then contributions to benefits. So, a lot of companies will have benefits packages. For example, if you have health insurance or dental, each month out of each of your salary payment, you're going to have a certain amount of it taken out and put towards your health insurance, your dental insurance, or even your 401k. So you want to make note of all those things. And then, of course, your living expenses. So these are going to change based on person to person. So it's going to be your rent, it's going to be your gas, it's going to be your food. If you have pets, it'll be your pet food, your pet, really all of your living expenses that you can think of, especially the most important ones. So you want to put all that on there, all your bills, your car insurance, your car payments, your phone, all of that. So you're going to do taxes, contributions, and living expenses. And already that's a pretty big chunk that's coming out of your salary. And then, of course, you want to account for savings and goals. We always want to encourage saving, especially in a time like now, we have a pandemic going on. I'm sure those of you who have savings, this has been really beneficial. And, it's situations like these that kind of really highlight how important it is to save. So you want to equate for that as well. And then, of course, student loan payments. So you want to account for those, and then your fixed and variable expenses. So these kind of go hand in hand with living expenses. Whenever we say fixed expenses, I would say, rent, phone bill, car expenses. Your variable expenses will be, your electricity, your water, those change, but you kind of have like a estimate of how much you're spending per month. And then, of course, you have your personal expenses, your shopping, anything that you're kind of just doing for yourself, which definitely you want to kind of have an estimate for. So you're going to take all of these expenses together and you're going to take it out of that gross salary. The gross salary is the figure that would be in your offer that you talk to the hiring manager about. That is the number that they gave you. Then you calculate all of your living expenses, and then you're going to take that out. And that's how you get your net salary. And that's after all your taxes and all your expenses. So that's the number you want to look at before you agree to an offer. Is that number going to be useful or not? And another really important thing to remember when it comes to this number is this is going to change based on where you're living. So, for example, Texas taxes are very different to taxes in New York or even North Carolina, for example. So, your gross salary is going to be worth different depending on what state you're in. So, if your gross salary is, say, 60,000 in Texas, then your net salary, maybe after you calculate it all, you figured out you're going to be taking 52. 52 is going to be your net salary. that 52 in California very easily could be a 42. So it's very important to do your taxes based on the location because this will make a really big difference. So moving forward, now that you kind of have your basics, you want to build a transition fund and you want to create a transition plan. Deconstruct job offers and then be obsessed with growth. So building a transition fund, especially for those of you who are students, this is kind of a really key time to build savings because you will have a lapse period from, say when you're graduating to when you actually get your job. So you want to make sure that you have enough funds, you have enough money to kind of keep you going through that transitionary period. For example, if you have a lapse in employment, if you have a student position and you can't work in a student position anymore because you're not a student, you want to make sure you have some type of funds that you can rely on. So this is where a savings plan comes really handy. And what goes hand in hand with the transition funds is, of course, the transition plan. So this is kind of where you want to detail out exactly what steps you're going to take. This can be as easy as kind of putting a spreadsheet together and kind of tracking all the companies you want to apply to or the companies you have applied to. So one thing that I do, I have a job spreadsheet. So I've broken it down by area. So the first page will be DFW jobs, and it's just a list of all the companies that I'm looking at or I've already applied to. I'll have another column on there, whether I've applied or not, when did I apply, did I follow up, all of these different things. So you want to create a plan, whatever way works best for you. Some people are visual, some are not. It really kind of depends. But kind of outline that. Keep track of all the moves that you're making. Track your interviews. Follow up, which is very, very important. And then, hopefully you have a good amount of offers. That way you can evaluate them. When you evaluate them, you want to make sure you have a plan set in place for that evaluation as well. So kind of being prepared is going to help you a lot when it comes to this more than even, actually attending your interviews. It's being prepared will make that whole process that much easier. So make it easy on yourself. Get everything together, This is a great time to kind of just kind of lay out exactly what you want to do. So build a transition fund and create a transition plan. These are really key and they're very hand in hand. And then, of course, deconstructing your job offers. So this is all about the competitive wage versus the livable wage. So this is going to vary depending on where you are, what you're doing. If you want to move out of state, then maybe you need to focus a little bit heavier on your transition fund and your transition plan because these are going to be really key items to figure out exactly what kind of number it is that you're looking for in order to successfully transition. And of course, be obsessed with growth because why wouldn't you be? This is all for you. You're planning for your future and your success. So, all the effort you're putting in there, it's definitely going to pay off. And the more effort you're going to put in, the higher amount of rewards that you're going to reap. So, just be strategic and keep, an open mind and just kind of evaluate all the factors. That's one of the really key factors is to evaluate all the different factors. And then, of course, visit the Student Money Management Center or the Career Center if needed. We do have virtual coaching sessions and virtual appointments that you can make. So you do have a lot of resources, and don't be afraid to reach out to those resources. It might not have to be school. It can be your parents. It can be your friends. Ask around, network. Networking is extremely important. You can find some mentors in like industries, and that'll kind of help you get an insight into what you can expect specifically from the field that you're pursuing. So there's just some important things to keep in mind. And then I just wanted to go over quickly over some general money management tips. So not necessarily career related, but if you really think about it, it's just life related. It's everything related. So this is a really useful resource that we found. So of course, get started. It doesn't matter if you have $2 in your savings fund or 200. The point is that you have something. So it doesn't matter even if you put in $1 every day. That means at the end of the day, then you at the end of the year you would have $365. You 50 cents a day, you'll still have half of that amount of money. And the point is you have something. So definitely get started. Don't wait. Just put a little bit in there. And then of course manage your expenses. So this is where budgeting comes into play. You want to make sure you budget. So there are many different ways of budgeting. If I say budget, you don't automatically have to think of an Excel spreadsheet where you're kind of tracking everything. Excuse me. Of course, that is one of the easier ways to do it, but there are many different ways. You can write it down. You can even try to do it in your head if you're really great with that. But manage your expenses, track all your expenses. So By writing them down, you kind of realize what your expenses are. You might be thinking, "Oh, yeah, I have all of this," and you start writing it down, and you realize, "Oh, wow, I do have a lot of expenses." Like for me personally, I always kind of forget about my subscriptions. I have Apple Music, I have Spotify, I have Netflix, HBO, all of those things, and they actually kind of account to a large chunk of money monthly. And those are really easy ones to kind of forget about because a lot of times they don't come out of your account on the first, so it's kind of hard to track them when they're kind of random. But definitely compile a list, see what you're subscribed to, see if you can kind of cut it down if you need to. But it's just really good to kind of be aware of exactly what it is that you're spending your money on. What are your important expenses? Prioritize them. And of course, emergency budget. So they're, kind of hand in hand in the first two. So you want to have an emergency budget for emergency situations just like this. So I'm sure this is kind of a big learning lesson, definitely for me. It's always good to have something set aside because you never know what can happen. Then, of course, stock up versus stockpile. So make sure you're saving your money. But if you have, reasonable investments, you can definitely go ahead and do that. Just be very strategic and mindful with where you're spending your money. And of course, avoid high cost alternatives. So, if you're trying to get toilet paper, which you're very lucky if you're able to get some right now, maybe go for the store brand instead of going for um, the other brand that you want to get. Every little penny counts. It does make a difference. And then kind of going back to the stock up versus stockpile, be really strategic with what you're stocking up on. Don't stock up on things that you might not use for months at a time because you could easily spend that money on something that you need now more immediately. So just kind of be strategic. Like I said, just think about what you're spending on. Try to avoid high cost alternatives whenever possible. Don't be afraid to get help. Help is there. Especially in scary times like this, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't have any options. You need to kind of relax, take a breath, take a step back, and think about it and be like, okay, what are the resources that I have and which ones are the most feasible? So, of course, the Student Money Management Center is going to be a great resource. We do have emergency loans. You can always contact us and we'll try to help you out. The university has a lot of different funds currently trying to help students out um, due to the pandemic crisis that is occurring. Then, of course, you have external banks. Um, if you have family, so there are options. It's just kind of up to you to kind of evaluate what sources you have and which ones are going to work out the best for you. And whenever possible, pay it forward. Even if it's you're in a drive-through, it's the easiest way to kind of pay it forward. Pay for the person behind you, or if your friend just like needs a little bit of help, you can lend them $10 or something. Um, it always helps out, and I'm a strong believer in karma. So you never know what you put out, you might get it back around. So just some tips to kind of help you not get super overwhelmed. These are very strange times, but if you take adequate action, if you just kind of are aware of your spending and of your options, you'll be in a really good place to kind of um, sustain and move forward. So, with that being said,
So right now with the pandemic, we are out of the office, but we are doing virtual drop-ins via Zoom. So we are able to help you with your resumes, cover letters, interview prep, and searching for jobs, email etiquette, and so much more. You can contact us at the number provided, which is 940-565-2105. We do drop-ins Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 to 12, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 3. Right now is a great time to look at your resume, see what you can tweak, um, get yourself prepared for interviews and all these job related aspects because it is going to be very competitive once the pandemic is over, whether you are graduating or just looking for an internship. Um, it's going to be very competitive for some time. So it's good to have everything as perfect as you can so that you can stand out from the other competitors. And you can follow us on all of our social media platforms at UNT Career Center. So we do have a Instagram, Snapchat, and a Twitter.
and at the Student Money Management Center, we have a lot of cool online resources for you. So, especially right now, we recommend joining our Club Biggie, which is Bank It, Grow It. So, basically, it's a virtual club, and all you have to do is sign up. And then each month, we'll send you a newsletter just with kind of financial tips and advice and some news, and just to help you get your finances in order and help you kind of learn more about personal finance, budgeting, and everything kind of related to that. So you can use the hashtag Club Biggie to join. You can find the information on our Facebook or our website, which if you just Google UNTSMMC, it should pop up. And then we also do monthly prizes, and then every semester we do like a really big grand prize, which will be an Amazon gift pack. So we do have virtual events as well. So it's kind of just a really cool little community where you can kind of talk about finances and just learn more, learn from your peers. So it's pretty easygoing, nothing serious. So definitely recommend that. And of course, please follow us on social media. Our social media is actually UNT Money. So ignore that. And we are also offering all of our services virtually. So you can send us an email, visit our website, or just send us a message on any of our social media platforms, and we'll get back to you right away.